sometimes only a little dark humor can keep you sane, and Joe is usually good at doing that, so I'm going to post my response to Joe's video tonight. True story today, or rather it happened yesterday. I have a checking account like most people, and so I go to deposit my paycheck, and I discover that I've ran out of deposit slips. Now, if you are a checking account customer with virtually any major bank in the United States, you know, they give you the little booklets with the checks, and then at the end of that booklet are a bunch of deposit slips. So I had run out of the pre-printed deposit slips. So I go to the bank, and I said, well, you know, I haven't run out of checks, but I think I'm going to need some more deposit slips for my paychecks. And they said, oh, no problem. Here's a little form, you can fill this out, and actually it's in the back of your booklet, and here's the little booklet, you know, there it is. And so I can order more deposit slips for $5.99. And I said, now let me get this straight. You want me to deposit my money into your bank, and you're charging me for the deposit? In other words, you're charging me for the piece of paper on which comes with the deposit, so that you can use my deposit to enrich your big investors on Wall Street? Well, I didn't want to be too confrontational with the clerk behind the window. She got pretty flustered because she didn't know what to say, and she says, well, wait a minute, let me get a supervisor. And so the supervisor comes to the teller window and tries to argue the point with me. And you know, there really isn't any argumentation here. You know, look, I'm giving you my money so that you can work with it and earn more money, and you're charging me to deposit the money now? I mean, this is, it's hilarious. It's basically hilarious. And I didn't want to hold the poor manager to account, and he wasn't the manager, and he said, well, let me get the bank manager. And he comes back after a minute, and he says, well, I'm sorry, the manager is out to lunch. And well, I wasn't going to argue any further with them, because I think a lot of people are out to lunch these days. So anyhow, little tidbit tonight from Bloomberg News. I'm sure you are already aware of it, and if not, then here it is. Pfizer Incorporated, and this is one of the biggest worldwide pharmaceutical companies, agreed to a $1.2 billion criminal fine, the largest in U.S. history, and a felony plea by a subsidiary to close an investigation into what government lawyers described as fraudulent marketing of drugs. The fine over sales practices for a painkiller, since pulled from the market, makes up the biggest single share of a record of a $2.3 billion settlement announced today with the Justice Department and Pfizer Incorporated. Pfizer, the world's largest drug maker, entered into a 5-year integrity agreement with the Health and Human Services Department as well. The government pays for medicines through several health programs and joined the investigation after private whistleblowers filed lawsuits in 3 states. The criminal case revolved around allegations that the painkiller Bextra and 3 other medicines were promoted for uses other than those approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Restless leg syndrome, anyone? When a drug is marketed or promoted for non-authorized so-called off-label uses, any use not approved by the FDA, in this case here, public health may be at risk. And the 4-year investigation uncovered a range of practices, including kickback payments to doctors in the sale of 9 other drugs, amongst them Viagra and the cholesterol pill named Lipitor. Now, Pfizer's Incorporated, their shares fell by just 1% on Wall Street or in the New York Stock Exchange today after this announcement. So that ought to tell you right there how what a nice arrangement that was. And not to mention the fact, of course, that the current administration has just given Big Pharma another great deal by not negotiating any kind of prices with them at all in terms of human services. Good night.